Yo! 2005 Honda Civic. This thing's got a power steering leak. It's a pressure hose. It's easy enough to find. The fluid's low. It was whining like crazy when it first came in. Because the pump's cavitating, you get air in there and then it all kind of recirculates on itself and makes a noise. The easiest way to find a power steering leak on a car usually is just to start the car up and crank the wheel and turn it all the way to lock while the car's running, because it'll boost the power steering pressure. It'll multiply it like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. So when it's cranked all the way one way and then you just hold it and lock and just let somebody hold it there while it's running, you can find it a lot easier. I'll show you where the leak is right now. That's easy enough to find. It's right there. I can wipe it down and just let it run, and yeah, it's still leaking a little bit there. So I got to do a power steering pressure hose to this. I got this hose from O'Reilly's. There's the part number. Back by the firewall, there's a power steering pressure switch. Right here, you push in this tab and pull back on this connector, unplug that. Then down here there's a 10 millimeter. You just got a 10 millimeter swivel socket for this. Now on the rack and pinion, I have a 14 millimeter here. You can use a line wrench on it. A regular wrench will probably strip the thing out. I'm going to be cheap and easy though. I'm going to get a side cutter in here. I got a really long Nip-X. I'm going to put a nice pinch in it and just wiggle this line around until it snaps. And break that off. Just like the junkyard dogs. Try to pull this up out of my way. Then I can just get on the thing with a 14 millimeter. I got a swivel socket here. It's actually a 9/16 and a 3-foot extension, and I'm just going to take the nut off that way because that sucker is tight. Then I have 2 more 10 millimeters on the top of the power steering. There's an O-ring that's sealing this, so as soon as I pop it off, it should dribble fluid all over the place. Now I need to get this power steering pressure switch off of this hose. I just put it in a vise. This is a 19 millimeter. There's a 17 millimeter here too if you don't have a vise. There's a little O-ring on here that seals the thing. It didn't come with a new one. And that one looks like it's going to be fine. I'm just going to reuse it. I'm just going to put a little silicone paste on here. Don't really need a lot. I mean, it's already lubricated. I'm just doing this just to make sure it seals really good. Same with this new power steering hose. It comes with an O-ring that goes on here. I'll put some silicone paste on it. Then I got this bracket here too. I'm going to take it off and make sure it goes on the same way. Just pull it open like this. Put it on here. This actually goes up farther. I think it goes up here. Put this back in. Make sure that O-ring seats really nice. And it seats almost too nice. There's not even a recess in there. It's probably going to destroy that seal. I bet I won't be able to use it again, but it should seal just fine. Cheesy Chinese stuff. I don't know how you'd put a torque wrench on this, but if you really want to, it's like 8.7 foot-pounds. You can only turn it a little bit too, because this wrench is a little wide for it. I think I got a skinnier wrench. I got a stubby little 3/4 that's skinnier. Just kind of guess there on the torque. Now I'm just going to try to route this hose the same way I took it out. I'm going to try to start this line first. I want to start this by hand too. I don't want to use a wrench or anything. Make sure I can get it in there by hand. It feels like I got it started. I got a little stubby 14 millimeter. I'm just going to try to put it in the rest of the way. You don't want to force this thing in here because if it cross threads, you're going to be screwed. So I need to put it in by hand at first to make sure it doesn't cross thread. It's going in there. I got it right. I just snugged it down and now I'm going to loosen it up a little bit just so this line can turn. Then I got this line. I just want to make sure it's nice and clean. It's still got that silicone paste all over it. It's still lubricated. Stick that in the hole. I can start these bolts. I just want to snug them down, make sure they're square. And I can torque these bolts down to 8 foot-pounds or 96 inch-pounds. There's a bolt for this on the valve cover. I'm going to retorque this because it just loosened up on me. 8 foot-pounds again. Now I can try to put my clamp down. These lines are always bent a little funny because shipping and China. I just got to do my best to try to line this thing up and get it back in there. Same thing here. Torque this one to 8 foot-pounds. Now for this 14 millimeter, I can do this last. Now I'll get it all the way tight. This is supposed to be torqued to 27 foot-pounds. There's really no way to get a torque wrench on it. So you just want to make sure you get it good and tight. You could use a crow foot and a torque wrench with an extension, but then you'd have to use a torque multiplier. You got to do the math and measure the length of the damn crow foot, and I'm not doing any of that. So I'm just going to get a good feel for this and just make sure it's good and seated. That feels really nice. I can plug this thing back in. You need to use Honda approved fluid for this. There's a low line and a high line. I'm just going to fill it up to the lower level because when it gets hot, it should go all the way up to the top. And I'm just going to run the car and make sure it's not leaking and check it. I'm going to start the car up and I'm just going to turn the wheel to the right and the left. It had to fill up that line, so it went down quite a bit. I'll just fill it up again. It's really bubbly right now. I got to let all the bubbles get out of it and then I check it again. I'm going to replace the power steering and alternator belts now too because the belts are all sticky, gooey, and nasty. I have a 12 millimeter box in here. I'm going to loosen up this bolt right here. Don't need to loosen it up much. I got another 12 millimeter right here. That's the adjuster bolt, so that one I got to loosen up quite a bit. Make sure it's good and loose. I don't know why they put a wing nut on here for an adjuster. It usually never works as good as it's supposed to. So I have a 1 16" socket, 6-point. Yeah, just loosen it up a little. I'll use that to tighten it. Basically, that's why I got it. Give this power steering pump some light taps right about here. It should move down. Take this belt off. Now to get at this alternator belt, I always think it's easiest to get it from underneath. I'm going to take the tire off. 19 millimeter. I'm supposed to have 2 panel clips here. Looks like one of them's missing. Just pull out the center. Take this out. I'm just going to flop this out of the way. Now I can get in here with a 12 millimeter deep well. Loosen up this adjuster nut. Make sure that's good and loose. I have a 14 millimeter up here. You can barely see. I'm going to get up here with a mid-well socket. You might be able to just use a short socket for this. I don't know, it's up there somewhere. See that? See that? I can't see it either. Oh, I can see it better looking through my phone. All right, I'll loosen that nut up. Same thing here, I got one of them goofy wing nut adjusters. A lot of times these are so rusted out they don't even move, just like this one. So I'm just gonna take this adjuster all the way out. I'm gonna have to fix it. This here's a 14 millimeter on this bracket. Now I can try to fix this adjuster and make it work again. I have it in my vise. It looks like it's lubricated enough. Oh yeah, this will work. I just gotta work it a little bit. Put a little penetrant on the thing. I got my 1 1/16 inch socket. There, now I can work this by hand. Sometimes I gotta torch this thing, but I didn't have to do that. I got lucky. My alternator belt's a little different than the factory number. I got a 986. I'm gonna stick a pry bar up in here. I'm gonna pry on this alternator and try not to break it. Turn this wing nut some more. That feels about right. I can turn it just under 1/4 of a turn. Since it's a new belt, it'll stretch out. Should be just right. Now, if you actually want to torque these bolts down, all of these 14 millimeter bolts should be torqued to 33 foot-pounds. And this one is a 12 millimeter. That should be torqued to 17. I'm just going to double check my belt. Yep, it's just a little bit tighter than it's supposed to be. Should make a tone about like that. Fun. Might as well toss on my power steering belt since I'm down here. That's the number I got for this, 1010. I'm too lazy to loosen up the power steering pump more, so I'm just going to take a 19 millimeter and turn this belt on. I actually bungee corded this to hold it back. I actually like this guy enough to give him an extra clip. There. Tighten lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds. Same thing here, do the 1/4 turn thing. This thing's way too loose. That's tight enough for an old belt. I'm going to get a little tighter because it's new. And that should be about right. Sounds about like that. And of course, they might come back a month later and go, my belt's squeaking, yeah. Then you just got to tighten it up a little more. No big deal. Better to have it a little too loose and have them come back than a little too tight. Same thing with this. These little 12 millimeters get tightened to 17 foot-pounds if you care about such a thing. This one can actually go a little tighter because it's a stud, but don't quote me on that. Double check it. Feels good. Fluid level is right up to the top, right where it's supposed to be. And it's a job. Okay, bye.